Are you looking to buy the Canon EOS R5 Mark II, but tired of all the false rumors and speculation? Then why not considering the original R5 or even the R5C? Both cameras have a resolution of 45 megapixels and can do 8K video. And both are heavily discounted right now. But before we get to the details, please subscribe to this channel. It doesn't cost you anything, helps this channel grow, and keeps you up to date on the latest camera coverage. The R5 can be had for $29.99 at Adorama, B&H, or Amazon.com. But with Adorama, they'll throw in a CF Express Type B card as well as a card reader. And the Canon EOS R5C, well, it can be bought for $35.99, also at Adorama, B&H, and Amazon. That's an incredible $700 off. Let's go ahead and cover some of the pros and cons. Now, the biggest pro is that both the R5 and the R5C are available for sale today. We know the specifications, we know the price, and boy, are they heavily discounted. $35.99 for the R5C and $29.99 for the Canon EOS R5. And that includes a 128 gigabyte CF Express Type B card and a card reader if you get it at Adorama. The R5, it's still an impressive camera today, with only one camera really beating it in terms of specifications for both video and stills, with the Nikon Z8 performing better than the R5 in some video and stills capabilities. But when it comes to video, there isn't any camera on the market that can do what the R5C can do, delivering cinema quality 8K video with the same cinema OS found in other Canon cinema cameras, offering RAW ST, LT, XF AVC, and several HEVC modes, as well as H.264. As far as the R5C goes, based on what we're hearing, we're probably a couple of years away from a refresh of that camera. But the R5 is due to be refreshed this year, and we don't know an awful lot, but like any other camera, when we look at a successor, there's certain things that we can expect improvements in. Obviously, autofocus, dynamic range, ISO performance, low light performance, and we might even get a stacked sensor, which would help improve a lot of those capabilities. But we don't know really what that's going to be. And we do know one thing else as well, which works out to be a con, is that the price of this new camera, well, at the very least, is going to match the same price of $38.99 that the R5 was announced back in 2020. But here in 2024, with, how shall we say it, years and years of inflation, do we really expect it to stay at that same $38.99? And if Canon does put in a stacked sensor, I would expect them to increase the price by, well, maybe at least $100, bringing up to $39.99. But I think Canon could push the price even up to $41.99 if it really is a game changer of a camera. We'll just have to wait and see. But consider what you get today. Both the R5 and the R5C deliver high-resolution 45 megapixel stills. That's 20 frames per second electronic and 12 frames per second mechanical. That's in RAW. You can shoot RAW and JPEG or RAW and HEIF. And when it comes to video, the R5 can deliver 8K video up to 30 frames per second RAW, uncropped, with autofocus. And the R5C, it goes one step further, delivering 8K up to 60 frames per second. And of course, both cameras can deliver 120 frames per second. And not only that, both cameras have Canon Log 3 and Canon Log 1. And both cameras can also deliver 4K up to 120 frames per second. Although there is one distinction, you'll notice that the Canon EOS R5 has a slightly more advanced autofocus system to deliver animal, bird, and human eye detection, whereas the R5C delivers autofocus in the same way that it delivers autofocus for their cinema camera line. And what's great is both of these cameras can record unlimited 8K video, but there are a few caveats. Now with the R5, not the R5C, it has that 30-minute record limit, and it is annoying. But if you're one of those people that is going to want to record consistently for more than 30 minutes, then you probably would benefit from something like a Ninja 5, which has a larger external display, which I can see right here. I can't see the LCD flipped out. I'm about 5 feet away, and there are some cables in the way, so that doesn't really work. But it also gives me false colors and other exposure tools, which makes the Ninja 5 very, very useful. So with the Ninja 5, it completely blows away that 30-minute record limit. I've gone for, I think, 4 hours on doing live streams, and in terms of continuous recording, I think I've gone up to around 2.5 to 3 hours. So the Ninja 5 really, really helps. But The one thing you also need to make sure on the Canon EOS R5 is that you're running firmware 1.6 because it provides much improved heat management or thermal management in the Canon EOS R5. However, to maximize the heat management improvements with firmware 1.6 and later, make sure that you have auto power off temp set to high. By default, it's on standard. You also want to make sure that the LCD is flipped open and that the LCD goes to sleep after 30 seconds. And that's because right behind the LCD is where the sensor and the image processor is in the camera, and that's where a lot of heat is generated. So by keeping that LCD closed, what you're doing essentially is putting a nice warm winter coat on the camera. So not just have auto power off temp set to high, but have the LCD out and let the LCD go to sleep after a certain amount of time, 15, 30, 60 seconds, whatever you have. But I have done extensive testing when firmware 1.6 came out, testing in 4K up to 120, 4K 30 frames per second, 8K RAW, and I got some pretty impressive results. I was able to record in 80-degree temperature, or around 27 degrees Celsius for 2 hours without any overheating, with the exception of 4K at 120 frames per second, where the camera did overheat after just 20 minutes. I tested every single mode of the Canon EOS R5, and none of them but that 4K 120 overheated. And if you want to watch all the tests that I performed, I've included a link to this video in the description down below, and you might also want to check out the Def Director, who was able to test the Canon EOS R5 with firmware 1.6 in 96-degree Texas heat. And I get it, if you want the latest and greatest, then the only option to you is to wait for the Canon EOS R5 Mark II and pay that top dollar price, and wait for all the firmware updates to fix any minor bugs that might come with it, and of course wait in line, and hopefully you get it within a couple of days to a couple of weeks after it's been announced. The Canon RF 200 to 800mm, which was announced back on November the 2nd and started shipping December 14th, well, several people still don't have it, people that bought it on the day of announcement. So that's one of the frustrating things of waiting for the latest and greatest. But there's perhaps one other thing I can help you with to make your decision if you're still sitting on the fence. Ask yourself what you need to do in your business, what value, what outcomes you need to be able to deliver, well, jobs for your clients, whether it be video or stills. Chart them out and then look at what the R5 does, what the R5C does, and ask yourself, is this good enough for what you need today, but also for what you need in the future? And while the R5 Mark II is going to have better dynamic range, it's going to have an improved autofocus system, the current Canon EOS R5 and R5C are not slouches in any way whatsoever. Even in 2024, the Canon EOS R5C is the best camera on the market, most affordable camera that does 8K video. Sure, you can find better cameras that have a global shutter sensor that provide 17 plus stops of dynamic range that cost in excess of $29,000 and go readily up to $45,000. But to be able to do 8K video, anything else you find on the market, whether it be Sony, you're going to deal with a heavy crop and you're not going to be able to do 30 frames per second. Now, the Nikon Z8 does a really terrific job, as does the Nikon Z9, but it doesn't have that Cinema OS delivering cinema tools to be able to deliver 8K 60 frames per second continuously all day long, regardless of the heat, regardless of the humidity, regardless of your environment. You could get the R5 delivered to your house Monday for $29.99, and that's with a CF Express Type B card, 128 gigs, along with a card reader. That's over $1,000 off its regular price of $38.99. And the R5C for $35.99. That's such a huge deal. It's $700 off an already low price that was dropped from $500, so $1,300 off its original price. And this isn't some sort of clickbait video from some guy in his basement. And while I am shooting in my basement, it's because it's nice and cool down here. But I have, well, shot with a Canon EOS R5 since, well, a week before it started shipping. I got a loaner from Canon, and then I had my own model on the day it started shipping. That's over 3.5 years, over 1,200 videos, and thousands upon thousands of images. And I shot with the Canon EOS R5 with the EF adapted 50mm f1.2. I've shot with many lenses since, the RF 50mm f1.2, the 100mm f2.8, and some big whites to name a few, the 100 to 500mm, the 200 to 800mm, and and I couldn't do it without you. So if you're interested in purchasing, pulling the plug this weekend on the R5 or the R5C, then please consider using my affiliate links down below. These guys right here, I do have them in the description, because if you do use these links, it saves me, well, it provides me anywhere from 2 to 12% back, which goes right back into this channel. It's what allowed me to buy all these lenses that I've talked about. And thank you to everybody who's used the links in the past. Somebody just bought an R3 a few days ago. Thank you so much. It's greatly appreciated. But the one thing it really helps me is towards my new goal. And that is to make this my daily driver, my day job, to retire from my enterprise architecture job and move this into becoming my full-time job that I'll continue to do into retirement. This isn't something I'm going to do for maybe another year or another 2. This is a lifelong commitment to myself and to you. So a big thanks to everybody that has used my affiliate links before. The R5, regardless of what I say in this video, $29.99, that's a big deal. $38.99 when it came out, $29.99 today, just as capable, but you have some 12 to 20 firmware updates. I can't remember how many there are right now. I think we're on firmware 1.9. And look at all the enhancements we got to the autofocus system. We got Canon Log 3. We got unlimited recording in video. Really impressive camera. And the R5C, that's a beast of a camera. It takes away all the negatives from the R5 when it came to video and gave us a cinema version of the Canon EOS R5. So we have, in the R5C, we kind of have a Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde. Is that how it goes? So we have the R5 with all the, just like the Canon EOS R5, we have that same operating system, but once you switch to video, you get a Cinema OS version of the Canon EOS R5 that is very, very powerful. But that's it for now. Have yourself a great weekend, and we'll see you again soon. Oh, one other thing too, don't forget to subscribe so that way you stay up to date on all the latest and greatest, and follow me on X, because quite often whenever these deals come out, I'm always tweeting out before I put out a video. It's just this weekend, once I saw the price for the R5 still on for $29.99, and then I saw the R5C also dropping down to $35.99. I thought, it's a terrible day, it's cloudy, it's overcast. I thought, what a better way to brighten up the day with some incredible deals, and maybe this might be your camera. And I gotta tell you, no matter what the R5 Mark II does, if you do buy this camera, you're gonna love it. And you know what, let's say the R5 Mark II comes out, and in about a year you decide, you know, I really want this camera, then sell the R5 that you just bought and consider that a rental fee. It's gonna be a whole lot better than if you went out and rented the camera. And okay, even if you lost $700, how's that for a year's worth of use? I mean, I have the Canon EOS R5, I spent $38.99 for it. And you know, here we are now, new it's worth $29.99. If I went to sell it, I'd probably get what, $2,500, $2,300? So how much have I lost? Almost $2,000. So, you know, that's another option to consider as well. But that's it for now. Have yourself a great weekend, and we'll see you again soon.